Okay, so starting with the chest and moving on to the axilla. So this here is going to be your cephalic vein, and remember that this travels in the deltopectoral groove. I would absolutely know that for your lecture exam. And the deltopectoral groove just splits the deltoid and the pectoralis major. So this here underneath the cephalic vein will be your deltopectoral groove. So this is all your pectoralis major muscle. If you reflect that back, you see your pectoralis minor muscle. So you need to know the innervation of these, not only for your lecture exam, but for in here. So you have your lateral and your medial pectoral nerves. Medial pectoral nerve is going to pierce the pec minor. So this is it right here. Pierces it, travels through it, and then innervates the pec major as well. So the way I remember it is M is more, medial is more, so it innervates both, and it pierces minor, versus lateral, which is right here. It skips pec minor and goes straight to pec major. So that's kind of confusing because this is medial, this is lateral, right? But they're named by which cord of the brachial plexus they come off of, not by where they're positioned right here. So don't let that confuse you. If you move that out of the way, here is the money area. There's a lot of structures here. For your lecture exam, I would absolutely know all of the brachial plexus and all of the branches of the axillary artery. And in here, they're all fair game for the tag exam as well. So here was the axillary vein, which is most superficial, so we cut that in order to see the other structures. So this here is going to be the axillary artery, and you know that because you can see the M of the brachial plexus. And so you have your lateral cord, your medial cord, and then behind, deep in here, you're going to have your posterior cord. So remember, the cords are named by where they are in relation to the axillary artery. So you'll see the axillary artery, and then it'll go behind the branches. So axillary artery, this is the 60s teens love, sex, and pot mnemonic. So S is going to be your superior or your supreme thoracic artery. So this one is going to come off the axillary artery and travel straight down towards the thorax here. This one got ripped, but this is it right here. Next, you're going to have your thoracoacromial trunk, which travels upwards. So that's going to be this. And then the thoracoacromial trunk is going to split into 4 branches. So this, you can remember by cadavers, are dead people. So you'll have your clavicular branches, your acromial branch. This is your deltoid branch, but it got kind of ripped. And then this is your pectoral branch here. So remember that the axillary artery is extremely variable from person to person. So something that's kind of off in this body is that we have a second pectoral branch here, and this one's coming directly off the axillary artery. So don't get confused with that. Remember, for these, because they're so variable, always look to where they're traveling, not necessarily where they're coming off the axillary artery. So that was the thoracoacromial trunk. Next, you're going to have L, so your lateral thoracic. So this, just like your superior thoracic, is coming straight down towards the thorax, but it's more lateral. So it's all of this right here. Next, you're going to have your subscapular, and then your subscapular is going to split. So this right here, to tag the subscapular, you'd have to tag it right here, and then this is already where it's branching. So it's going to split into your thoracodorsal artery, which is right here, and your circumflex scapular artery, which is here. So another variation in this body is that this would be your anterior, do we say
Posterior.
Posterior circumflex humeral artery right here, and it's coming off of the subscapular, which is kind of weird because it's supposed to come off here, and then this would be your anterior. So normally you have your subscapular, and then you'll have anterior and posterior circumflex humeral coming off axillary artery directly, but in this case it's a little bit different. And then from there on, it's going to be the brachial artery in the arm. So anywhere that it's tagged in the arm area, you can just write brachial artery. Moving on to the brachial plexus. So I'm not going to tag the roots, trunks, or divisions in the body. You do need to know those for the lecture exam, but for in here, you just need to know the branches and the cords. So lateral cord, just lateral to the axillary artery. Medial cord, just medial to the axillary artery. And then if you lift all of that up, this would be the posterior cord up here. Be careful because you may think that this is the posterior cord, but this has already branched. So this is your radial nerve and this is your axillary nerve. So your posterior cord splits into your radial and your axillary nerve. Remember, the axillary is going to stay in the axillary area, aka your armpit area, and the radial nerve is going to travel down and innervate all of the posterior compartment of the arm and all of the posterior compartment of the forearm. The medial cord here is going to split and it's going to give off your ulnar nerve here. Don't confuse your ulnar with this one, which is your medial antebrachial cutaneous. Note the ulnar is going to travel back to that ulnar groove on the humerus in the posterior aspect, so you can kind of see it diving deep to stuff here, versus the cutaneous ones are going to stay within the skin because those are just sensory innervation. The middle of the M here, so you get part coming from the medial cord, part coming from the lateral cord, that's your hint. This forms your median nerve. Remember, your median nerve and your ulnar nerve are not going to branch in the arm at all. The only one here that's branching in the anterior part is going to be your musculocutaneous nerve. So musculocutaneous nerve is the most lateral part of the M. It's coming off the lateral cord, and you'll see it coming and directly piercing that coracobrachialis muscle. It could also be tagged anywhere along here. So this is it traveling in the arm, and you can see it branching to all of the different muscles because it's going to innervate all of the muscles in the anterior compartment of the arm. So this here, like I said, is your coracobrachialis. Remember, that one's going to start all the way up and go halfway down, and then you're going to have your brachialis, which is here, and that's going to start halfway down and go all the way down. And then the one that travels from all the way to the top all the way down, this is going to be your biceps brachii, and remember that this has two heads, biceps, so you're going to have your short head and your long head. Long is lateral. If you haven't removed your pecs completely, it's kind of tricky because this one looks like it might be longer, so remember your long is lateral.